great. It's Wednesday night. It's cold. Got my blankie. This is the first night I've been able to record this week because Monday and Tuesday, March 6th and 7th, today's the 8th, I got my solar panels installed. They're not turned on yet, though. I have to wait for a city inspector and then a utilities inspector. I'll get a good picture up, and then on one of the videos, I'll put it up there. I'm I've been asked about making donations. I don't have enough subscribers yet, but I'm looking at a potential Patreon or PayPal for the videos, because, I do 10 videos a week, and it's about 3, 4, 5 days of kind of making them. So if people want to throw down some money for some thanks, great. I have 530 some videos. I forgot to put up my 500th video special. Blew right past that. So I think I'll probably put that up at maybe like 550. And it's just going to be a DNA thing. This is taking a lot longer, but this was a request. The introduction, I mean. This is a request. One interesting fact about all 49 vice presidents: I can do presidents and stuff like that forever because I love American history. I know I've been doing other things, but that interests me. Biographics has done some presidents videos, and I'm going to do those soon. But here we go.
The second cousin was Samuel Adams.
Sorry.
Yes, that Samuel Adams.
Let me start this over.
John Adams' second cousin was Samuel Adams. Yes, that Samuel Adams. His third cousin was Abigail Adams, who was also his wife. Thomas Jefferson was famously the primary author of the Declaration of Independence and died on its 50th anniversary, July 4th, 1826, which happened to be the same day as his predecessor, John Adams, died. Aaron Burr killed founding father and $10 thirst trap Alexander Hamilton.
Can I just say, 7 years before Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr played the middleman, the second, to future 5th President James Monroe. He was his second when James Monroe and Alexander Hamilton were going to have a duel. And Aaron Burr actually got James Monroe to send a letter to Hamilton basically saying, we're not going to do this. And then he turned around and I think he hand-delivered it to Hamilton and made Hamilton write a letter, which he might have hand-delivered to Monroe, basically squashing everything. And it was almost 7 years to the day where he stopped a duel between future President James Monroe and Hamilton, 7 years to the day where he would shoot Hamilton in a duel and kill him. And he gets a lot of flack for it because Hamilton's first shot he fired in the air, and Burr was just like, nope, and sorry.
In a duel in 1804, and then tried to start his own country. George Clinton was not only the...
I actually have heard a lot of things that have made me change the way I think on the whole him being a traitor. It's been interesting.
First vice president to die in office, but also the first vice president of the United States to die, period. Elbridge Gerry is the namesake for gerrymandering. While governor of New York, Daniel D. Tompkins personally financed the state's efforts in the War of 1812, but did so mostly on borrowed money that he couldn't pay back. John C. Calhoun was super pro-slavery. Martin Van Buren would eventually become the first president to be born a citizen of the United States.
Not Van Buren, sorry. John C. Calhoun. He was vice president to John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Jackson later said his greatest disappointment in his life was not killing John C. Calhoun, because he was from South Carolina. And South Carolina first originally tried to secede under Andrew Jackson. And Jackson said something to the effect of, when the South Carolina delegates were there, he told them that if they did proceed with secession, which he had talked to fourth president, James Madison, who basically was like, no, there's no nullification, there's no secede. So Andrew Jackson talked to them. I apologize, but Andrew Jackson talked to the South Carolina delegates and said, if you order secession, then we'll have a galley built. Galleys? Well, basically, we're going to take you out and we're going to hang you on the lawn of the White House. And then he was going to get a military to march through South Carolina and hang every man, woman, child, and pet from every available branch through South Carolina. Then burn the whole state and then fill it with patriots. And when Andrew Jackson threatened to kill you, you listened, because he meant it.
And was the only president to speak English as a second language. Richard Mentor Johnson is believed to have been the killer of the Shawnee chief Tecumseh. Just 16 years after serving as President of the United States, John Tyler served in the House of Representatives of the Confederate States of America. George M. Dallas may have been the namesake of Dallas, Texas, but that's very disputed. Millard Fillmore became president after the death of Zachary Taylor and never had his own vice president. William R. King couldn't make it to take his oath of office in 1853 because he was in Cuba trying to recover from tuberculosis. A special act of Congress allowed him to take his oath in Cuba, making him the first and to date the only vice president to take the oath of office on foreign soil. He succumbed to the tuberculosis just a month later. Immediately after being vice president, John C. Breckinridge became a Confederate general in the Civil War. Hannibal Hamlin, like his predecessors John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, died on Independence Day. Andrew Johnson's administration finalized the deal with Russia that purchased Alaska for $7.2 million in gold. Schuyler Colfax's son, Schuyler Colfax III, is to date the youngest mayor in the history of South Bend, Indiana, just barely edging out 2020 presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. Henry Wilson's birthday was February 16th, which means he shared a birthday with me. Also, Henry Wilson was not his birth name. His father named him Jeremiah Jones Colbath after a wealthy and childless neighbor, in hopes it would convince him to leave him an inheritance. He changed his name to Henry Wilson at age 21. In 1873, Congress approved a pay raise for itself, but Congressman and future Vice President William A. Wheeler opposed the so-called Salary Grab Act and refused the pay raise that came with it. Chester A. Arthur was the subject of the original birther conspiracy, with political opponents erroneously claiming that he was born in Ireland and not eligible to be president of the United States. Thomas A. Hendricks is the only vice president, who was never president, to appear on paper currency. Levi P. Morton bought this Washington, D.C. home from Alexander Graham Bell. The building still stands today and is currently the home of the Embassy of Hungary. Adlai Stevenson's son, Adlai Stevenson II, unsuccessfully ran for president in both 1952 and 1956. His son, Adlai Stevenson III, was a U.S. Senator from Illinois and unsuccessfully ran for governor of the state in 1982 and 1986. His son, Adlai Stevenson IV, had a son named Adlai Stevenson V.
The lonesome-looking gentleman in the carriage is Garrett Hobart. You've guessed it, he's the vice president.
Garrett Hobart's D.C. residence was referred to as the Little Cream White House, and Hobart yielded so much power, it wasn't uncommon for him to be referred to as the assistant president rather than the vice president. Teddy Roosevelt is next, but first, did you know that 98% of people who watch my videos aren't subscribed? That means you, and yes, I am speaking specifically to you, Kris.
Man, that's not how you spell my name, but I mean, I don't want to. Yep. Okay.
Probably aren't. So now would be a great time to leave a like on the video and subscribe.
Yep.
Anywho, Theodore Roosevelt hated being called Teddy. He preferred Colonel Roosevelt, and while on safari, his African guides called him Bwana Tumbo, which literally translates to Master Stomach. Charles W. Fairbanks is the namesake of Fairbanks, Alaska. James S. Sherman was the first vice president to fly in a plane. Thomas R. Marshall was known for his sense of humor and would tell a story about a man with two sons. The first son was lost at sea. The second son became vice president. Neither son was ever heard from again. I've mentioned a few presidents and vice presidents who died on the 4th of July, but Calvin Coolidge was the only one to be born on Independence Day. Charles G. Dawes.
By the way, just as a side note, James Monroe, the 5th president, he also died on the 4th of July. Number 4, James Madison, was close. He died June 28th. He couldn't hold out to join the boys.
Composed a well-known song called Melody in A Major in 1912. In 1951, Carl Sigman added lyrics to the melody and the song became It's All in the Game. In 1958, Tommy Edwards' recording of It's All in a Game hit number 1 on the American Billboard record chart and stayed there for 6 weeks. Charles Curtis, a member of Call Nation, is to this day the highest-ranking enrolled Native American ever to serve in the federal government. In 1893, John Nance Garner ran for county judge of Uvalde County and was opposed by Mariette Reiner. In 1895, Garner married Mariette Reiner. Henry A. Wallace created a type of hybrid corn called Copper Cross. Harry S. Truman had a play written about his life called Give 'Em Hell, Harry, and during a run of the play in 2017, he was portrayed by his grandson.
Shame on you!
Alban W. Barkley's grandmother was a childhood friend of former Vice President Adlai Stevenson. Richard Nixon was elected president of the Whittier College student body primarily on a platform of supporting on-campus dances. Lyndon Johnson nearly never became vice president because in 1955, while acting as Senate Majority Leader, he had a massive heart attack that was, quote, the worst a man could have and still live. While working as a pharmacist, Hubert Humphrey concocted a substitute for Vicks Vapor Rub. Spiro Agnew was only the 2nd vice president ever to resign, and he did so as vice president to the only president ever to resign. Gerald Ford is the only person to be president despite never being elected. He was appointed as Agnew's successor and 8 months later took the top job. Nelson Rockefeller nearly failed the 9th grade due in large part to undiagnosed dyslexia. Walter Mondale ran for president in 1984 and didn't do so hot. He won only the 3 electoral votes from DC and the 10 from his home state of Minnesota. George H.W. Bush, like his father, Prescott Bush, and his son, George W. Bush, was a member of the Yale cheerleading team. Dan Quayle is best known for being on the receiving end of this Lloyd Benson zinger.
Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
And the Oscar goes to An Inconvenient Truth.
Al Gore is the only vice president to win an Oscar. While vice president, Dick Cheney accidentally shot his friend and hunting partner, Harry Whittington. Whittington survived, and in a statement after being released from the hospital said,
My family and I are deeply sorry for all that Vice President Cheney and his family have had to go through this past week.
That's right, he apologized to Cheney. Reportedly, while then-Senator from Delaware, Joe Biden, was giving a long-winded speech, then-Senator from Illinois, Barack Obama, wrote in a note to an aide, "Shoot me now." Mike Pence really hated the movie Mulan, calling it mischievous liberal propaganda in a 1999 op-ed. Kamala Harris attended the same high school as singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen, Westmount High School just outside of Montreal, a Canadian school that has now produced a United States vice president before producing a Canadian prime minister.
Yeah, I gotta like the video because he called me out. Apologies. Just gonna go ahead and give that a thumbs up-a-roo. See those videos I'm gonna do? All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video because it feels weird that he called me out and not feeling safe. 78% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, which is odd because it makes me wonder, why are you subscribed? So the people who are subscribed and don't watch my videos, just know that I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to bring a bunch of people and we're all going to eat sardine flavored grapes. But you're not going to eat them. We're just going to hold them in our mouths, and we're going to get real close to each other, and we're just going to go halal, and we're going to tongue kiss with sardines in our mouths. Sardine flavored grapes. That's right. It just got weird, didn't it? Subscribe and like the videos then. Not that guy's videos, my videos. All right. After it was weird, let's go ahead and end the video. Have a good day. Have a good night. Toodles.